Hey Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl, and this is going to be a quick check-in video to let you know what I think of some of the assistant coach hires that the Eagles have made. I'm making this video on Championship Sunday as the two conference championship games are going to be held today. And for those of us here in the Northeast, we've gotten a ton of snow. So we're snowed in, no place to go, so I just thought I'd do a quick check-in and let you know what I think. And as the video title suggests, as far as what I think about the hiring of Jim Schwartz as our defensive coordinator, may the Schwartz be with us. I'm really excited about the hiring of Jim Schwartz as our defensive coordinator. I really think that this is going to be something that's good for the defense. He likes to use the 4-3 as opposed to the 3-4. And frankly, I think our talent is better suited there. We're better on the defensive line than we are in linebacker. So using some of those guys on the defensive line and having Vinny Curry go back to that pass rushing role at defensive end, I think will be really great. Of course, they've got to re-sign him, which would be, in my mind, the top priority in terms of re-signing the guys that are their contract is up at the end of this year, and that they've got to re-sign for next year. He would be my #1 target. I know a lot of talk has been around Sam Bradford, but I'll get to him in a minute. But in terms of my thinking, I think Vinny Curry is the one they really need to bring back for that reason. I think going to that 4-3 defense, putting him back in as a defensive end. I know we all hate the term wide nine because of how bad it went for us last time we went to that kind of a defense, but Jim Schwartz does like to use the wide nine occasionally, which sometimes those speed pass rushers are better with. So someone like Vinny Curry, I think, could really, really do well in that kind of a system. So if that's the system he's going to use and they can re-sign Vinny Curry, I think it could be really good for the pass rush. And in general, lots of times these guys that are successful coordinators that become head coaches, but then as a head coach, they're not quite as good, like Jim Schwartz when he went to the Detroit Lions. Lots of times when they go back into the coordinator role, they find their comfort zone again and they really have a lot of success. And in fact, he did have success in Buffalo before they changed their coaching staff there. So their defense was actually the strong part of that team before Doug Maroney left and Rex Ryan came in for this season. So it's one of those things that I think really, when you look at it, Jim Schwartz is someone who could really, I think, maybe improve the defense. And it's kind of ironic, even though our offense was sort of the stronger suit over the last couple of years under Chip Kelly, if you look at the team now, the talent really is on the defensive side of the ball. And even though that's been sort of a weak point for us, I think there's a lot of core guys on there that they can really build the team around. Guys like Vinny Curry, Fletcher Cox, and then you've got a guy like Byron Maxwell, even though maybe he underperformed. I certainly think he could be someone that could really do well and they could really utilize. And then even some of the linebackers, D'Amico Ryans, Michael Kendricks, and of course Jordan Hicks, the rookie who got hurt this year. I think all those guys are guys that they could really build a defense around. And if you have a solid defense, as we saw in Andy Reid's first few years, and you've got an offensive-minded coach that can really sort of come in and try and develop some schemes, you don't have to score a lot of points. All you've got to do is have the defense keep you in games and have the offense score enough points to allow you to win. I think that's something they could do. So for that reason, I think hiring Jim Schwartz is a right move. I think it really shows that where this team wants to go. They want to go back to their roots of what they were good at for so many years under Andy Reid, which is having a real good base defense that was going to be really good, keep you in games, and then allow the offense to make some plays to hopefully win you some games then at the end. And given the way this division is, I think they can be competitive with that formula. Moving on, though, beyond the defensive coordinator, of course, also the other news that came out wasn't really a hire as much as it was keeping someone on, and that was Dave Fipp, the special teams coordinator, which once again I think is a great move. The ironic thing with that, of course, is that apparently Chip Kelly wanted to interview him for the same role out in San Francisco, and the Eagles denied him access because obviously, number one, I think they sort of wanted to stick it to Chip Kelly, but also I think they recognized how good he's been with the special teams unit over the last few years. And really some of the games they won, specifically I'm thinking of the New England game this past year, they won because of their special teams. So that's one of those things that I think keeping him on once again is a really good move. And hopefully that will be something that will be able to continue to be a strong part of our team. And the last bit of news, of course, is the hiring of Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator. Most of us know him as the backup quarterback for the Buffalo Bills with Jim Kelly for so many years in the 90s. And of course, he was the one that was responsible for their big 32-point playoff comeback win against the Houston Oilers. But really, when it comes down to what he's done in the coaching world, he's been the offensive coordinator with the San Diego Chargers the last couple of years, and they let him go because they didn't feel their offense was going that great. So some people might have some concern about that. I'm okay with it. Really, I think Doug Pederson's probably going to be the one that's really going to be the one responsible for the offense, and Frank Reich maybe will just allow him to be able to grow into maybe some of the play calling roles, and Frank can really help him out with some of those roles early on. But I think that Doug Pederson's going to be the one that's really going to develop the offensive schemes. The other thing in terms of the offense that I really like is maybe just because I liked him as a player, I'm glad they kept Deuce Staley on as the running backs coach. And we all know that he's the one they interviewed first for the head coaching job. Where I think it's one of those things that maybe Deuce, one of these days, will end up in a role like that, and maybe down the road they can promote him to a coordinator position. But for now, I think it's really great that they kept him on, especially it'll allow for some continuity with the running backs, because that's obviously one area where there's not going to be a lot of change in the player personnel department, because we've got 3 guys there that most likely will probably be back next year. So having some continuity there with their coach is probably going to be helpful as well. But really, when it comes down to the offensive side of the ball, it really doesn't matter so much for me who the coaches are going to be. The real big thing, and the thing that I've said from the beginning on this, is the biggest decision the Eagles had to make this offseason wasn't even their head coach. It's what they're going to do at quarterback. And I think that's really going to be the interesting next step as far as where we go with this and what the Eagles decide to do in terms of signing players. As I said earlier, I'd really like to see him keep Vinny Curry. And if they're going to use the franchise tag on one of the 2 of them, I'd prefer they use it on Vinny Curry. I'm actually okay if they let Sam Bradford go and maybe go with a stopgap like even Mark Sanchez for a year until they can either develop someone young or even position themselves in the draft for next year. If we tank the year and pull a 76ers and get a better draft pick and get maybe a top draft pick next year, I'm even okay with that because I think really long term this team needs to take a look at what they're going to do at quarterback. I don't know that I necessarily think Sam Bradford's the answer there. Maybe when they, as the draft unfolds this year, they can find someone young that they can draft this year and develop. But ultimately, I think that's the interesting decision that Doug Pederson really has to make. I don't know that I necessarily have an answer on that as to what I think they should do. But for now, I think that that's the big decision they've got to make, and we'll see where they go with that. As news comes out about maybe what they're thinking, about what they're going to do at the quarterback position, I'll check in again. I'll let you know what I'm thinking. But for now, let me know what you think. What do you think they should do at the quarterback position? Would you prefer to see him sign Sam Bradford to a long-term deal or franchise him if they can't sign him to a long-term deal? Or do you agree with me that they should use that franchise tag on someone like Vinny Curry instead? And then should they draft someone as a quarterback, or should they go ahead and try and build around someone like Sam Bradford? Let me know what you think on all those things, and we'll sort of take a look at where they go over the next month before March starts and really free agency starts up. So like I said, I'll be checking in again later. Enjoy the football games this afternoon so we get to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Until then, may the Schwartz be with us and fly Eagles fly.